So before we go on with the lesson, I want to point out two very important things. The first is that from now on, when we will play a chord, we will have to specify which note we will use as a bass note. So I will, for example, if I play the C major chord, I will play the triad, so C, E, and G, but I will add a fourth sound, a lower note, which is the bass, which is what we call a bass. So from now on, we will not only play the chord, only the triad, but we will add the bass note, since we have understood how important is the bass in the whole harmony. I mean, of course, unless we need some particular effects, and then we can, of course, play all the chords without the bass, but only if we need some particular effect. But if we don't, we will always play the triad, the chord, with the fourth note, which is the bass note. And then we come to the second thing that I want to point out, and it is how to play the bass. How can we play the bass? I will often play it this way. So as you can see from the screen, from the picture, we are quite close to the keyboard, and I'm recording this way because I want you to watch the keyboard very well. But of course, if I have to use the bass, if I have to use some low note, it could happen that I have to go out from the picture, out from the screen. So, for example, if I want to use this C, you will not see this C, of course. So, how can I play? How can I do so that you can see the bass note that I play? I will do this way. I will play the bass note in a higher range. So I don't play it this C, this other C, this lower C. I play this C with the thumb. But at the same time, so I play it using a higher range, so that you can see which is the bass note. But at the same time, I will double it an octave lower. So, for example, if I play the A minor chord, I will play this note with the thumb, but I double it an octave lower with the pinky, so that you can, and of course, I will do the same for all the different chords. So, for example, E minor chord, I will play this, but at the same time, I will play also this other note, which is out of the screen, so that you can listen to the bass very well. I'm doing this, I'm doubling the bass, so that you can listen to it very well, and so that you can listen, you can hear how it works on the whole harmony with its harmonics, with its harmonic sounds. Well, so when you see my thumb, this is the bass note. So now it is. You only have to look at my thumb, and my left thumb, of course. Now, this is the E minor chord with E as a bass note. This is an F major chord with F as a bass note, and D minor with D as a bass note, and so on. But please remember that I'm doubling it an octave lower. Okay. Well, when we decide, since we have decided to add the bass to our chords, now we have a new problem, because we have a triad. For example, if we take the first degree of C major, the chord built on the first degree is, of course, a C major chord, and of course we have three notes. This chord is made up of C, E, and G. And the problem is, which note will I play as a bass? Because of course, let's take C major. I can take the C note, which is called the root note. It is the first note, the note on which I built my chord by superposing intervals of a third. So I will have this situation. So I will play now. I play C major chord using C as a bass note. But of course, I can also use this other note. I can also use the third, so E, the second note of the chord. Now I will have a different situation, but then I can use also G as a bass note. So please pay attention to this aspect, which is very important. I'm always using a C major chord, but using different notes as a bass, I will change the chord, the same chord, in a very strong way. I always have a C major chord, but because of the harmonics theory, if I will use the C as a bass, I will have some harmonics mixed with the chord. So I will have, this will be the harmonics mixed with this chord. But if I'm using these, so starting, for example, from this, or from the octave lower E, I will have this. This will be the harmonics, the harmonic sounds, which will be mixed with my chord. But of course, if I'm using G, I will have other harmonics. If I start from this G, I will have these harmonics, and so we have a different mix between harmonics and the same chord. So depending on the bass note that I choose, I can change the whole harmonic result. I'm repeating this because it is very important. I'm using the same chord, but using different note as a bass, I will have different harmonic perceptions, of course, because I will have different mix with between the harmonics and the chords. So since it is this, I must use different names to call these chords, even using the same chord. So I mean that if I'm using the C major chord and I'm using C as a bass note, I have to use one name, but this name will be different to call this other chord, when I'm using E as a bass note, even playing the C major chord with the right hand, and then of course playing G as a bass note and playing with the right hand C major chord, I will have a different chord, so I will have to use a different name. So I will have to use 3 different names depending on which note I use as a bass note. So let's see the different names that we use to call these different chords, because they really are different chords. Even using the same C major chord, the whole chords, the whole harmony is different. So when I'm using the first note, so the root note, this chord is called a chord in root position. So for example, this is a C major chord in root position. If I'm using the second note, so the E as a bass note, I will have the chord in first inversion, so the C major chord in first inversion. And if I'm using the third note, so G in this case, I will have the chord in second inversion. So in this case, I will have the C major chord in second inversion. So now we have introduced the very important concept, the essential concept of inversion, which is tied to the use of different notes as a bass note.